Tonight, the vice president and the vaccine.
You continue to do your part. Put the health of your family, your neighbors, and your community first.
The latest on the coronavirus crisis in America and the push to get people vaccinated. Plus,
it would put hundreds of billions of dollars into payroll support, testing, vaccine distribution, extended unemployment aid, safe schools, and other essential priorities.
Negotiations on Capitol Hill. Can lawmakers hash out a deal on COVID relief?
The time is now to work, and there's an opportunity to get it done now.
And a new explosion of terrorism. And Christians face the brunt of the violence. Where the attacks are now surging and why. Tonight on Faith Nation. Millions more vaccines ready to hit the market. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jenna Browder. The 6 million doses of the second COVID-19 vaccine could be shipped out as early as Sunday. The FDA has now recommended emergency authorization for the Moderna version, which follows the Pfizer rollout earlier this week. Senior Washington correspondent Tara Mergener has more in tonight's top story. Tara?
Jenna, the FDA is paving the way for the U.S. to have 2 vaccines available to the public. The first Moderna doses could be shipped out Sunday morning, with Americans receiving the first shots next week.
This is an exceptionally safe vaccine. It's a shockingly effective vaccine.
At more than 94% effective, the Moderna vaccine becomes the latest weapon against coronavirus.
As we get into January, February, March, and April, that light is going to get brighter and brighter, and the bitterness is going to be replaced by the sweetness.
The shot given the thumbs up by an independent advisory panel for Americans 18 and up.
It looks like we have a favorable vote.
Some seniors and thousands of healthcare workers getting the Pfizer shot after it was shipped earlier this week.
This is hope. I get to hug my mom.
This morning, Vice President Mike Pence also rolling up his sleeve.
As the Christmas holiday approaches, this is always a season of hope. Karen and I wanted to step forward and take this vaccine to assure the American people that while we cut red tape, we cut no corners.
Surgeon General Jerome Adams, who also received the vaccine this morning, urging others to do the same.
The creation of these vaccines is a gift from above. But vaccines, even ones that are 95% effective, will not alone end this pandemic. We must now do the necessary work to go from vaccines to vaccinations.
Unlike Pfizer's vaccine, Moderna's can be stored in regular freezers, making for easier distribution. 3 Pfizer shipments had to be thrown away after enclosed thermal sensors detected they were sent too cold.
We're working with the FDA now, CDC, FDA, and Pfizer, to determine if that anomaly is safe or not, but we were taking no chances.
This as COVID-19 numbers remain on the rise nationwide. The CDC predicting we will likely add more than 80,000 deaths to the total in less than a month.
We're in a very serious phase of this pandemic. Our hospitals are full. There's just a handful of beds that are available in any given hospital at any point in time.
Still, with not 1 but 2 new vaccines, many believe there is now light at the end of the tunnel.
Health officials say between Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, 20 million doses will be delivered by year-end. Jenna.
All right, great news. Thank you, Tara. Well, no government shutdown, at least not tonight. Late this afternoon, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell hotlined a 2-day government funding bill to avoid a shutdown that would have set in at midnight. Lawmakers spent the day in negotiations for government funding and a COVID relief package. Republican Senator Ron Johnson blocked a measure in the relief negotiations that would have provided another round of $1,200 stimulus checks to those making less than $75,000, citing the U.S. growth deficit. Those checks are being championed by fellow GOP Senator Josh Hawley and independent Bernie Sanders. Hawley today aired his frustration on the Senate floor.
Nothing could be more targeted. No relief could be more important than relief for working people. Well, the senator's right. This body has spent trillions of dollars this year alone on COVID relief. We're getting ready to spend apparently another $1 trillion more, and yet Working people are told they may be last, if they get relief at all.
Both Senators Hawley and Sanders had threatened to block a stopgap government funding measure unless direct payments are in the relief package. And with that, we want to bring in our political panel. Here now is Julia Manchester with The Hill and CBN's chief political analyst, David Brody. Both of you, good to have you this evening, this Friday. Julia, your thoughts on this back and forth in these negotiations between lawmakers over government funding and COVID relief today?
You know, Jenna, I think this picture that we see on Capitol Hill today is very bleak. You know, first of all, we're obviously in the middle of a global pandemic. Wednesday was the deadliest day we've seen in this pandemic so far. We've seen more Americans contracting coronavirus and even more Americans really having to deal with the economic fallout of this pandemic. But yet on Capitol Hill, we can't seem to have Republicans and Democrats really come together to get some sort of relief to them before the holidays, before the Christmas holiday. So I think it's very embarrassing right now for our lawmakers going forward because it's taken them so long to reach a deal. And, you know, for the, you know, it seems that every time we get to this brink in terms of deals, you know, it has to be the very last minute and they finally compromise on something temporarily. You know, I just think this is a very embarrassing moment for our lawmakers.
Yeah, disappointment for a lot of American people who are relying on some kind of relief or hoping for some kind of relief. At the same time, you do see lawmakers really all over the place on this issue. David, it's not every day you see someone like conservative Josh Hawley in agreement with Bernie Sanders. Do you think there's more room for this kind of bipartisanship in Washington?
Well, no. No. I mean, when it comes to bipartisanship, forget about it. Now, in this case specifically, Jenna, I think what you're going to see is there'll be some agreement on the COVID relief bill. I don't think there's any question. They'll stay over the weekend. They'll get this done. That's why it's a 2-day stopgap measure, because they're going to try to figure out a way to do this. So it's going to happen. So this idea of bipartisanship, they might have a little bit more bipartisanship right here in the moment over the weekend, but that's about it. I mean, anything grander than that is just not going to happen. And look, I think Democrats realize the gravy train's about to arrive with Joe Biden come January 20th and beyond. And so they're trying to figure out what they can live with for now and let Biden pick up the rest later.
Well, speaking of the new administration, Joe Biden has pegged Representative Deb Haaland to be his Interior Secretary. If she's confirmed, that would be one less seat Democrats will have in the House. How much of a difference could that make, Julia?
It makes a huge difference because we know that Democrats were not nearly as successful as they thought they would be in keeping control of the House. Obviously, they still have control over the House, but when you have Cedric Richmond from Louisiana and Deb Haaland from New Mexico leaving, you know, those special election races next year could be very precarious for that party, considering they have right now have a pretty narrow majority in the lower chamber. And we don't really know how the Georgia runoff elections are going to go. You know, if Loeffler and Perdue, the incumbent Republican senators, come out on top, we're going to see Biden is going to have to contend with a Republican-controlled Senate. It's going to be difficult for his administration if he's going to have to contend with a Republican Senate on top of a very narrow Democratic majority in the House. So I think, you know, he's definitely taking a risk here. But you do hear Biden really talk about his history of deal-making and compromise, especially in terms of the Senate. He's someone who's known Mitch McConnell and many of these Republican senators for decades when he was serving as a senator and when he served as vice president in the Obama administration. But, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how the Biden administration is able to reach out to Republicans in the House and the Senate and how those two special elections in Louisiana and New Mexico really play out.
Yeah, let's shift gears here a little bit and talk about the Moderna vaccine. David, you know, there's been a lot of bipartisan praise for this administration's Operation Warp Speed. How much will President Trump's legacy be about his handling of the coronavirus pandemic, good or bad?
Well, that's a really good question. I mean, I guess the answer is it depends who you ask. I mean, is it going to be part of the legacy? I mean, absolutely, it has to be. Now, the question then becomes, you know, how much is this administration responsible for it and how much is private industry? I mean, look, Pfizer and folks that are supporting the vaccine as it relates to what Pfizer did will say the administration didn't have much to do with this. Of course, the administration will say, wait a minute, we have the conditions in place to help this vaccine along as it relates to Operation Warp Speed. So, look, I think it just depends. But I think look, either way, it's going to go down as a major accomplishment. And here's the main reason why. Donald Trump said a vaccine will be ready by the end of the year, and a vaccine is ready by the end of the year. And that's how people think, and that's how he'll be remembered.
All right, David Brody, Julia Manchester, we have to leave it there, but thank you very much. Have a great weekend, both of you.
You too.
Well, in other news tonight, security officials are calling a months-long cyber attack targeting our government a grave risk among the agencies breached, the one that oversees our nation's nuclear stockpile. Investigators say it could take months to determine the extent of the damage. Here's CBN's White House correspondent, Ben Kennedy.
Several government agencies were targeted in the attack. And we've now learned the Energy Department's Nuclear Security Agency, which oversees the nuclear weapons stockpile, was breached.
So what's so scary about it is we could wait to see any decision from the hackers, appear to be the Russians.
Officials say the hack did not impact national security functions or any classified systems. Still, they call it a grave risk to the federal and local governments as well as critical infrastructure. The breach was undetected for up to 6 months, allowing the hackers suspected to be Russians to view emails of U.S. officials.
This by no means happened overnight. This is a many-month campaign. And I might note that every day is a cyber day that we need to be on guard.
The Energy Department's Nuclear Security Agency was among those targeted.
What I'm really worried about is what they might do beyond spying to mess with our public and its trust of its institutions.
No response yet from the White House. Senator Mitt Romney calling it a serious intrusion.
A cyber hack of this nature is really the modern equivalent of almost of Russian bombers reportedly flying undetected over the entire country. And they didn't drop bombs, but they had the capacity to show that our defense is extraordinarily inadequate.
A new analysis by Microsoft revealed the breach is international, with at least 7 countries affected, including Canada and Israel. Now, the full scope of this attack is still unknown, as we are told it could take weeks or even months to uncover the overall impact. Ben Kennedy, CBN News.
Thanks, Ben. And coming up, how new technology is helping Israel defend itself from outside threats.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel, now available at cbnradio.com.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
You know, I think as a father, it's my job, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back. New satellite photos reveal Iran has begun construction at Fordo, a key underground nuclear facility. The photos show building began in September to expand one of the Islamic Republic's main sites to enrich uranium. The discovery puts pressure on President-elect Biden's incoming administration. While the Trump administration pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal in 2018, Biden is pledged to re-enter a deal critics believe would let Iran get a nuclear weapon. Well, Israel is on constant guard against the threat of missile and rocket attacks from outside its borders. As CBN's Julie Stahl reports from Jerusalem, now a new technology is helping in the fight.
This week, Israel and the U.S. celebrated an unprecedented and successful test of this multi-level anti-missile system.
I am happy to be present in another successful test of our multi-layered air defense system, which protects the state of Israel against long-range and short-range missiles and threats from the north, from the east, and from every possible direction.
Israel faces constant threat of Hamas and other terrorist rockets from the south and Hezbollah in the north. As many as 150,000 missiles are aimed at the Jewish state that could hit the entire country.
The systems in this multi-layered mechanism provide Israel with a top-tier strategic capability, enabling us to operate effectively in every scenario.
The U.S.-supported systems known as Iron Dome, David's Sling, and the Arrow 2 and 3 contain 4 layers to deal with different threats.
We're proud to be a part of the team, and I can't tell you how excited I am for the country of Israel today. Just another mark of success.
During the test, the targets launched from the air and land, while the interceptors were loaded onto ships and launched from the Mediterranean. An advanced version of David's Sling targets threats representing cruise and ballistic missiles. A feature simulating future threats will enable experts to evaluate and upgrade the system's capabilities. Tests also demonstrated the often used and reliable Iron Dome, known for its ability to intercept rockets from Gaza. Key systems tested included detection, tracking, and interception, with the idea that if the first level missed its target, the next level would intercept the threat, and that the systems would be capable of intercepting threats simultaneously during conflict. The tests were hailed as a critical milestone in advancing Israel's operational capabilities in defending itself against current and future threats. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Pretty neat. Well, ISIS on the move. Up next, where the terror group is waging a new war on Christians.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5, Wednesday night at 9:30.
Tikkun Olam.
This is our nature as a country.
To make the world a better place.
Literally, we felt the earth shaking.
The Christian Broadcasting Network presents To Life, how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
This film needs to be seen by everyone.
I was in tears.
Now you can own the inspiring documentary To Life on DVD.
There is blood on our hands if we know and we walk away.
I'm so grateful that this film was made.
To Life can be yours for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
We know that every minute counts to save life.
It'll bless Israel, but it'll also bless all the friends of Israel.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are making the world a better place. Call 1-800-700-7000.
or log on to cbn.com to get your copy today.
Nearly 350 school-aged boys in Nigeria are free tonight after being kidnapped by Boko Haram last week. The boys were taken after the terror group attacked their school. Now they are heading home. Many of the boys still wearing the school uniforms they were kidnapped in back on December 11th. The 344 boys will all be checked out by a doctor before being reunited with their families. Well, American soldiers blown up, dozens of innocent civilians beheaded. No, this is not the Middle East, it's Africa. ISIS has taken refuge there. So what can be done to stop the slaughter? CBN's George Thomas takes a closer look at the new ground zero for jihad.
On November 6th, a CIA officer, formerly of the Navy's elite SEAL Team 6, is killed in an explosion set off by the Somali-based Islamic terror group Al-Shabaab. The CIA operative, along with 4 Somali officers, reportedly died during a raid on the group's suspected hideout south of Mogadishu. 4 days later, on November 10th, ISIS-linked fighters behead 50 people in a soccer stadium in northeast Mozambique. Then, on November 29th, Boko Haram Islamic fighters slaughter 110 Nigerian farmers, men and women attacked in their rice fields. Steve Killalay tracks terror around the globe for the Australia-based Institute for Economics and Peace. He tells CBN News the center of gravity for ISIS and other Islamic terror organizations is clearly moving.
Sub-Saharan Africa now has a higher number of people killed through terrorism than the Middle East and North Africa.
Killalay's group publishes the annual Global Terrorism Index. He says while the death toll from terrorism around the world has dropped, Islamic terror attacks in Africa are surging.
We look at the 10 countries with the largest increases in deaths from terrorism. 7 of those countries are in Sub-Saharan Africa.
Burkina Faso, Mozambique, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Mali, Niger, Cameroon, and Ethiopia, among those witnessing a spike in attacks this year. The State Department's head for counter-terrorism, Ambassador Nathan Sales, describing to reporters during a digital press conference about what drives this wave of terror, whether in Nigeria or Mozambique.
What we're seeing today is a committed ISIS affiliate that embraces the ISIS ideology, that embraces the ISIS tactics and procedures, and that embraces the ISIS vision of a caliphate.
And the jihadist groups are recruiting followers. 10% of those recently surveyed across 14 countries said they'd been approached by radical Islamic groups. Michael O'Hanlon is with Brookings Institute.
There are a couple 100 million Islamic Africans, Muslim Africans, and if only 0.01% are tempted by extremism, that's still several 100,000 people we may have to worry about.
Nigeria sits at the epicenter.
Nigeria is where the most lethal and most active external Islamic State province is located.
Jacob Zen writes extensively on Boko Haram, the Nigeria-based Islamic terror group. According to the Global Terrorism Index, Boko Haram, which has pledged allegiance to ISIS, has been responsible for more than 57,000 deaths since 2011.
And their increasing capabilities over the past few years has been alarming.
Boko Haram leader Abubakar Shekau, now Africa's most wanted man, wants to turn Nigeria Islamic and force Christians, half its population, to either leave, convert to Islam, or die. Johnny Moore, co-author of the new book, The Next Jihad, called what's happening here nothing short of Christian genocide.
It's the exact same playbook that ISIS used against Christians and Yazidis in Iraq. Boko Haram was already killing more people in Nigeria, Christians in fact, than ISIS did at their height in Iraq and Syria.
It led the State Department last week to call out Nigeria for failing to stem the religious persecution, the first time a democracy has ever been cited for violating religious freedom. Lack of security is a chief factor fueling the jihadist movement.
Of course, many of these African countries have very weak governments, which means there is frustration among many of their people, and there's also difficulty in providing security. So the government doesn't have the ability to find and stamp out these kinds of extremist groups.
With terrorism increasing, Ambassador Sales says African governments need to focus on confronting violent extremism. 25 active Islamist groups now operate on the continent. That's up from just 10 years ago. And according to The Intercept, the U.S. has 29 military bases across Africa, almost all engaged in the fight against Islamic extremist groups.
Our emphasis in boosting counterterrorism capabilities, not only in Africa but around the world, is to bolster law enforcement and border security and countering the financing of terrorism capabilities to really defeat the ideology that inspires some people to embrace radicalism and violence.
George Thomas, CBN News.
It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
Watch On the Home Front today at 2:30. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
Finally tonight, a festive show of bipartisanship on Capitol Hill. Retiring Senator Lamar Alexander shared a special send-off to his colleagues on Capitol Hill. The Tennessee Republican is a classically trained piano player, so he took his talents to the floor of the Senate Hart Building, playing impromptu Christmas carols for Hill staffers. At one point, Democratic Virginia Senator Tim Kaine joined him with his harmonica. And 80-year-old Alexander has served in the Senate for the last 18 years. We, of course, wish him well. And what a skill, an amazing talent. Have a great weekend, everybody.